Another day, another trade, but this one has Rangers fans wondering who is the mysterious player to be named later that we received in exchange for promising second baseman Mark Mathias. Join us as we investigate the potential value of this mysterious player and what this trade means for the future of the Texas Rangers. I also dive into the injuries of Leody Taveras and Jake Odorizzi and discuss if they'll be ready for opening day, as well as who could be their potential replacements. Without further ado, let's get into the video. So Mark Mathias was recently DFA'd by the Texas Rangers to make room for the signing of Will Smith. A little surprising since Mathias played well in 2022 and since we received him in the Matt Bush trade. But since he's 28 with no defensive home, he was kind of the casualty that had to be DFA'd. It also makes sense that the Rangers wanted to work out a trade so they didn't lose him for no capital as well, because Mark Mathias put up a decent 2020 season where I do think a team would have claimed him, and if a team would have claimed him, then we would have lost him for nothing. Although it really makes you rethink the Matt Bush trade, as the Rangers bullpen is still a question mark for the team, and Bush had a good season last year with good baseball savant metrics and is still under team control for 2 more seasons. As the centerpiece was Antoine Kelly, the pitching prospect from the Milwaukee Brewers, and he had a terrible season after we acquired him from the Brewers, but there's still potential and there's still hope. And Mark Mathias, who had a good season last year, is no longer in the organization. So it makes you scratch your head as we got rid of Mark Mathias to get Will Smith, a relief pitcher. But if we never have traded Matt Bush in the first place, we wouldn't really have this problem. So it really makes you think about the trade. However, hindsight is 2020, and the Rangers were most likely trying to capitalize on Bush's value as he was an old and injury-prone pitcher at the time. So it makes sense. He's having a good season. The Rangers aren't really competing this year. Let's capitalize on his value. You got a promising prospect in Antoine Kelly at the time. He didn't really play well, but he was playing well with the Brewers. So there is still hope, and there is still hope for maybe what you can get and Mark Mathias. Because remember, Mark Mathias wasn't the prime trade chip. That was Antoine Kelly, and he is still in the organization. But getting back to Mathias, it is good that the Rangers are still getting a player to be named later, as we still get to bring a player into the organization that is younger. That's important because Mathias is 28 and that can potentially compete down the line. For instance, Dustin Harris was a player to be named later in the Mike Minor deal, and he is now a top prospect in the Rangers organization. And it is notable that a lot of the times player to be named laters are flyers and don't usually pan out. But there is that instance like Dustin Harris. Looks like he will make an impact at the major leagues. Maybe he's not with the Rangers, but it could definitely help out a team later down the line. And if you are looking into potential players, I would expect someone at the back end of a top 30 prospect list, maybe not even on the Pirates' top 30 prospect list, or maybe a relief pitcher that could help out the bullpen, because like I said, that is still a question mark for this team. But if you guys are curious why the Rangers use a player to be named later in this instance, instead of acquiring someone right away, and if you want to know who I want the Rangers to acquire, stay tuned and I'll explain. Usually the player to be named later guys are flyers, so most teams throw in the player to be named later into the trade so they can further scout the prospects they are looking for, aka watching minor league games further to gather more data, as the Rangers and the Pirates have 6 months to determine a specific player. So as the trade was yesterday, they now have 6 months to specify a certain player. Usually it doesn't take an entire 6 months. Another aspect of the player to be named later is the Rangers may want to see what the roster is looking like after spring training. Maybe there's an injury that occurs, or maybe there's a void in one of their minor league rosters that they want to fill with the player to be named later, as there's already a certain list of players that the Pirates hand out, and the Rangers will just choose from that. So usually the Rangers already have an ideal top candidate, but it could change based off injury or just where they see a certain need, or just based off how certain players perform at the minor league season. So it'll be interesting to see what date the Rangers choose and who they choose as well. Now let me go over the player I want for the player to be named later trade for Mark Mathias. I think a fair return would be outfielder Canaan Smith-Njigba. He's a 23-year-old outfielder for the Pirates. He's a 28th ranked prospect according to MLB.com, and he's actually the older brother of Ohio State wide receiver who's going into the MLB draft this year. But he has a good knowledge of the strike zone as he accumulates a lot of walks. So I do think that could translate to the MLB from AAA. He hits the ball hard, but he's still learning to tap into his raw power. So what that means is that he can hit the ball for like doubles right now. But he has the potential to hit more home runs. He's just not there yet. So the hitting coaches need to teach him as how to pull the ball a little bit more, and he could probably become a 15 to 20 home run guy. He does have big league experience because he hit well at AAA last year. So he got the call up to the big leagues. Wasn't there much, but it just goes to show that if we trade Mathias for Smith-Njigba, he could be a guy that could contribute in 2023. So for instance, if Brad Miller or Josh Smith aren't playing well, and Njigba, if he turns it up, he could be a platoon option if those guys aren't playing well, as I mentioned. As far as what I think of the Mark Mathias trade, it was confusing at first, but once you peel the layers back, it starts to make more sense. As I mentioned previously in the video, Mark Mathias is already 28, was probably a little lucky in his first taste in the big leagues, similar to Andy Ibanez. If you remember back in 2021, Andy Ibanez was pretty good, but then 2021 came around, Josh Young was hurt, and then we gave the chance to Andy Ibanez and he didn't play well. I could definitely have seen that playing out for Mark Mathias this year. And Mark Mathias can't play defense. And the Rangers felt like everyone else on the roster already has more potential. So if we think about this, that makes sense why the Rangers designated him for assignment. But also, we get the chance to turn Mathias into a top 30 prospect. So that's just helping build the farm system even more. Yes, it's definitely going to be a guy that's a flyer, but it's still helping build the farm. And if we think about it, that's basically trading Matt Bush for Antoine Kelly, who was a top 15 prospect, and then a guy who's back in of a top 30 prospect list. And Mark Mathias wasn't a top 30 prospect when we acquired him because he was older. So I think that could be a fair return. So in all honesty, I'm not mad that we DFA'd Mathias, because in all reality, we probably would have done it next year if he didn't perform, similar to the likes of Ibanez, Solak, and Steele Walker. All those guys, like, if we traded them when they still kind of had their like prospect highs, we could have gotten a smaller return similar to what we're getting for Mathias, but we didn't trade them when they were at their highs. So for Ibanez, I'm pretty sure he was just a waiver claim. Solak was cash considerations, and Steele Walker, I don't even think he's on a big league team anymore. But at least, like I said, Mathias was able to build up his stock a little bit, and the Rangers can add a little bit to their farm system. So that is a pro. But let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Do you think this is a good trade? I mean, honestly, it's not really going to affect the organization that much as a whole. We're most likely not going to get the next David Ortiz, because Ortiz was a player to be named later. Probably not even the next Dustin Harris, but you never know. And that is what makes baseball fun. But moving on to the injuries, Jake Odorizzi is dealing with arm fatigue, and he probably won't be ready for opening day. And that's not the biggest concern for the Rangers, as Odorizzi isn't competing for a starting rotation spot. So Cole Reagans, Dane Dunning, Spencer Howard, and Glenn Otto could definitely fill into those roles. I think Cole Reagans and Dane Dunning definitely have the upper hand, specifically because Cole Reagans is tearing it up in spring training. And if you haven't checked out my video about Cole Reagans, check that out right now. And Dane Dunning has the major league experience, so I don't think that's too much of a worry there. But hopefully Odorizzi can get back to being healthy, because we definitely will need him to eat up innings. later in the season, but not too worried there. Let's let him get his rest because we have the depth, which is nice, and that's crazy for the Texas Rangers because we haven't had this depth before. And Tavares has a side strain that should take 2 weeks to heal, but he will probably miss opening day as well, and that's pretty big because unlike Odorizzi, who was just going to be a long reliever, so not that big of a role, Tavares was going to be our starting center fielder, and most likely will still be our starting fielder for the majority of the season, but will probably miss opening day because it will take him 2 weeks to fully recover, and then he'll have to do rehab assignments in spring training, and maybe we'll have to go to an Arizona complex to fully recover. But obviously, Bubba Thompson will probably get the lead looks to be the starting center fielder opening day. But Clint Frazier has been playing well, and we know Adolis Garcia also has playing time in center field. So you could shift. Obviously, Bubba Thompson would be the most easy guy to put in center field because he's fast, he can play defense well, but you could move Adolis over to center field and maybe put Clint Frazier in right field, so you could have an alignment of Grossman in left, Adolis in center, Clint Frazier in right, because that probably gives you the 3 best bats in the outfield, because I still don't think Bubba has developed his bat enough to be a good, at least an average big leaguer. I don't think he's there yet, but we will see how the Rangers align it. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. I don't think that one is as easy as replacing Jake Odorizzi, but obviously I think Bubba Thompson gets the lead role right now because he's on the 40-man, so it's easier than adding Clint Frazier. But also, who knows, it could be a player to be named later that fills these 2 spots. Maybe we get a reliever to fill Jake Odorizzi spots in the Mark Mathias trade, or maybe we get a center fielder in the Mark Mathias trade to fill Leodis Tavares' spot. So that just about wraps up the video. And if you liked the video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more updates on the Texas Rangers and their progress throughout the season. In the comments below, let us know what you think about the recent trade and injuries on the Texas Rangers. Do you think the Rangers have what it takes to overcome these challenges and come out on top? Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace.